back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. This video is going to be about 5 alien movies that I think you should watch during the Halloween season. It was extremely difficult for me to narrow it down to just 5, but I think I did a good job. First, let's let it get a little darker and get your popcorn or your wine or whatever it is that you want, and let's get into our pajamas. Coming in at number 5, The Abyss, starring Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. The director is James Cameron, and it was released in 1989. Following The Terminator and Aliens, director James Cameron's third foray into the science fiction genre has a group of deep-sea drilling experts unwillingly aiding a secretive Navy SEAL team in a mysterious recovery mission after a nuclear submarine is lost on the edge of the deep-sea abyss. Rather than the vastness of outer space, the abyss takes us into the eternal darkness and crushing pressure of the deep ocean. There have been many deep-sea adventure films, but one of the things that elevates The Abyss is its technical accuracy. Another is the complexity of the character development, especially between Foreman Virgil and the designer of the deep-sea platform, Lindsay, who also happens to be his estranged wife. I like this film for its originality and because it's so cerebral. It operates on a profoundly psychological level, exploring not only our fears born out of the claustrophobic atmosphere of the pressure vessels, but also our hopes in the face of despair. Work on this film is what inspired Cameron to pursue a fascination with deep-sea oceanography and to film Titanic. Coming in at number 4, The Blob, starring Steve McQueen, Anita Corso, Earl Rowe, Olin Howland, and directed by Irvin Yeworth. It was released in 1958. In this 1950s drive-in classic, teenagers in a small Pennsylvania town try to convince the police and townspeople of the threat from a weird amorphous mass that fell in a meteorite and that keeps growing in size as it consumes people. The Blob is possibly the most original alien monster movie of all, and despite the humorous moments aimed at the teen audience, it is genuinely frightening. This is a science fiction movie that could happen. Noted astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson singled it out as the best effort by Hollywood at imagining a realistic alien life form. The Blob was the first starring role in a feature film for Steve McQueen, who would soon star in the Western classic The Magnificent Seven. Anita Corso, who plays Steve's girlfriend Jane, you might know, would go on to play Sheriff Andy Taylor's girlfriend on The Andy Griffith Show. And Dr. Holland is played by Stephen Chase, who starred in another 1950s sci-fi classic, When Worlds Collide. At number 3, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, starring Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Jeff Goldblum, Veronica Cartwright, and Leonard Nimoy. The director here is Philip Kaufman, and it was released in 1978. If The Blob isn't the most original and frightening alien invasion film ever, then this tale of an insidious takeover by weird spores from outer space surely is. Exploring one of the most recurrent themes in the horror genre, Invasion of the Body Snatchers makes the strongest statement about the loss of identity and involuntary transformation. Here, in a frighteningly real sense, the aliens among us are our closest friends, which plays to one of the deepest universal fears, betrayal. This even more disturbing remake of the 1956 classic Cold War paranoia thriller infuses the story with the peculiar fears of the late 1970s, yet resonates, especially today, with the mindless, fanatical groupthink. Lead actor in the original film, Kevin McCarthy, makes a brilliant cameo appearance in this film as his original character, desperately trying to warn the citizens of San Francisco of the alien menace in a scene reminiscent of the climax of the 1956 film. Original director Don Siegel also shows up as a dubious cab driver. And the Gen Xers out there who grew up watching reruns of Lost in Space will recognize a grown up Veronica Cartwright, who will make another appearance on this list shortly. At number 2, we have Super 8, starring Elle Fanning, Kyle Chandler, Joel Courtney, Riley Griffiths, and Ryan Lee. The director is J.J. Abrams, and it was released in 2011. In this retro sci-fi, convincingly set in 1979 small town Ohio, a group of teenaged aspiring filmmakers witness a horrific train wreck that the Air Force wants to cover up as people in town begin to disappear by night. Super 8 stands out for its sympathetic and complex character portrayals, notably the roles of Joe and Alice and their respective fathers. While touching familiar tropes of secretive military cover ups and rebel scientists, Super 8 ventures in boldly original directions. Director J.J. Abrams' filmmaking style has been compared with that of Steven Spielberg, his filmmaking idol, who was a producer on Super 8. The making of the amateur Super 8mm film within the film by the Kids, a noir detective zombie thriller, is one of the highlights of the movie. Before I reveal the number 1 alien sci-fi film for Halloween, I should say that there are 2 other films that I seriously considered for this list before I settled on the final 5. The first is The Thing, John Carpenter's 1982 remake of the classic 1950s alien menace, is also regarded as a classic of the genre and follows the more frightening premise of the original short story. The other is Predator. Predator is a great alien movie, not because of the action, but because it has such an original premise. The film turns all the usual sci-fi tropes upside down. And finally, number 1, Alien, starring Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, Ian Holm, and Veronica Cartwright. The director is Ridley Scott, and it was made in 1979. In this breakthrough film by director Ridley Scott, the crew of a deep space mining tug are roused from their hibernation, not for their arrival home on Earth, but to investigate a mysterious distress signal from a desolate planet where they make a startling discovery. It's hard to believe that this film was released in 1979. It created a sensation at the time, launched a young Sigourney Weaver, and spawned a series of sequels. The special effects were shocking and groundbreaking, but what truly sets Alien apart is the otherworldliness of the visuals, which were inspired by the biomechanical art of H.R. Geiger. And while the film is definitely cutting edge sci-fi, at the same time, it feels almost like a haunted mansion movie in space, or the foggy streets of 1880s Whitechapel as the fearful crew members search the steam-filled, dripping corridors of the sprawling space tug for the alien lurking somewhere in the dark. Another trivia note is that several elements of the film Alien, including the dramatic ending, were inspired by the 1950s sci-fi B movie called It. The Terror from Beyond Space. And that's it. Stay tuned for more spooky fun.